Hello and welcome to the Full 10 Yards Betting Podcast, the podcast that went 4-0 for the first time of this season last weekend as we rounded out a very good week with, we had Callum's pick on Thursday night, got us off to a brilliant start. The Cardinals destroyed the Saints, mainly on a defensive performance as they picked off Andy Dalton quite a few times. Liam, he had his Chiefs. They murdered the 49ers fairly easily on Sunday night. A very impressive performance, frankly, against one of the supposed better defenses in the league. Jack's team lost the game, but covered the spread as he had the Browns plus 6.5 against the Ravens, and my under in the Lions and Cowboys never looked in doubt as they struggled to 30 points between them. I think it was under 49, so it was a very comfy win, and that was my second in a row, I think. So finally finding a little bit of form here as we enter week 8. This week we've got the full house. I'm joined by Liam, I am joined by Callum and Jack, and we are all going to go through our best bets for the week. So without any further ado, we'll go straight to Liam. Liam, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good, thanks. After a win, I'm sure you were happy when Jamal Williams fumbled on the 1 yard line for that total. That was almost the guaranteed under, wasn't it, at that point for you?
Yeah, a bit of a killer because I got good odds on Jamal Williams scoring. He was 2-1 because of the late news on DeAndre Swift, and he probably did score. Yeah, it was definitely worth it for a win on here. It was obviously been a painful year for me on this one, so decent bet for me to get it in.
Nice, definitely. Yeah, and the Chiefs just traded for one of my favourite college receivers, so I'm happy today. So we'll see how that goes. In terms of best bet for this week, I've gone with Titans minus 2.5 at the Texans. I feel like I jumped the queue in our group chat to pick this game before anyone else did because it looked like an obvious one. I think the spread for me should be 6.5. We found out today that Tannehill's going to play. He's not wearing a boot or anything at training either, so he looks relatively healthy. Derek Henry's playing well, and I just think the Texans are terrible, and there's a chance they could trade all their best players in the next week. So, yeah, I've gone with the Titans there by a field goal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that whatsoever, to be honest with you. I'm surprised at the line, to put it politely. I don't think the Texans are necessarily quite as bad as has been made out. I think they're scrappy and have managed to stay in a lot of games. I thought they would be closer to the Raiders than they were last week, but apparently they just decided that it was impossible to stop Josh Jacobs running. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I certainly agree with Liam and understand why he jumped in as early as he did to make sure he got this on the block, because it's probably the one that jumps out for this week's lines, which of course means it'll be the one that loses by a mile. So,
Yeah, no arguments here either. Titans minus 2.5 is probably one of my favourite spreads for the week as well. I'd expect Derrick Henry, I think the last 3 or 4 games hit 100 yards, and I can see no difference here. I too thought it would be near enough a touchdown, not a field goal. So yeah, no arguments.
Yeah, that's 4 out of 4 for all of us. Yeah, we had a quick chat about it, I think, a few days ago, and we all kind of pointed out that was one that we thought was a little bit off. Under the field goal is great. Ryan Tannehill's probably going to be a bit hampered with an ankle injury, but it's Derrick Henry against the Texans. I'm sure he'll put up 150 and a couple of touchdowns, and they should be able to slow mainly Dameon Pierce on the other side. So yeah, Callum, the Lions are playing the Dolphins. I'm assuming you're not going for them this week. So who are you going for?
No, I'm not. I'm not going for them this week. I mean, there's an argument of if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. So I'm going to take the Cardinals again, based on their performance last week. They have filled me with confidence. I think last week was the first time we'd kind of seen what I would deem the real Cardinals. And by that, I mean DeAndre Hopkins was playing. I'm still hoping that James Conner is going to be able to play this weekend, because that would give you almost a full-strength Cardinals team. Obviously, Marquise Brown looks like he's going to be out until late in the season, if back at all. So you may not see the full Cardinals this year, whatever happens. But I firmly believe in DeAndre Hopkins as a top 5 wide receiver in this league. And that's going to make a huge difference, just the kind of routes that he runs. He's Kyler's security blanket. I'm not entirely sold on this Vikings defense. I'm not entirely sold on the Vikings full stop. I think 5-1 is a massive exaggeration of how good they are. If Tua hadn't got concussed, I'm not convinced they would have beaten the Dolphins. So, I think plus 3.5, having that extra half point, the hook is essential. If it was plus 2.5, I'd probably be looking elsewhere. But I think, Kyler against this Vikings defense that has not been good against the pass, I fancy the Cardinals to keep it close and, to be frank, to win outright, but we'll take the points here.
No mention of Kirk there, which surprises me. But yeah,
I don't think it needs saying.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be betting this game, to be honest. I think this score could be anything. I like the over, actually, 49. I don't think either team's defense is very good. But yeah, this could be one of the craziest games of the weekend. I think, over 49 would be the fancy on this one.
Yeah, I'm the exact same as well. I think overs is the player here. I think it's the type of game the Vikings could go ahead by maybe a touchdown or two, and then you can see kind of a comeback from the Cardinals in the second half when Kyler Murray decides to take the game into his own hands. 3.5 is just annoying, to be honest. If it was 2.5, I probably would lean towards the Vikings, but that hook is a bit too much. So the overs is probably the only thing I'd play on this as well.
I don't really have a play on this one. I quite like Kirk Cousins. I quite like Kyler Murray to an extent. It irritates me that they're not better, frankly. I think that's
It irritates
my main
me too,
thing.
don't worry.
That's my main thing with the Cardinals. And as I think I've said before, he gives little people hope that they can do things in the world. But if you check out at Callum JD Squires on Twitter, you will see his forward rankings every week, and the Vikings and Kirk Cousins are generally quite high up in those rankings. So you don't need to go too far to find his opinion in this game. Hopkins back last week. He went over 100 yards on his 10 receptions, 14 targets. Benjamin looked good. I honestly kind of forgot about James Conner being there already. But he will. He is the RB1 when he's back. So yeah, it'll be interesting. That's a game that I think I'd quite like to watch. I quite like watching both of those teams. So I might have a little nose on Game Pass, given the fact that my Bengals aren't on until Monday night. And talking of Monday night football, Jack, who are you after?
Bengals -3. I think it's -3.5 in some places now, which is obviously annoying, but I still fancy them. I think they might have had a bit of a Super Bowl hangover at the start of the season. They were playing okay, but seem to be in full flow now. And my nap last week was the Browns +6.5. And after watching them, I know they only lost by 3, but Brissett is just absolutely horrendous. Like, he's quarterback for the Dolphins last year for a few games, and they're unwatchable. I think teams have kind of figured out how to play against him, which isn't rocket science, but yeah, they know what to do with him now. I expect the Bengals to win by double digits, to be honest. The way Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all them are playing, it's good. I think the Bengals end up winning that division, to be honest. And the Browns, they're 2-5, and the 2 wins they have, like I was saying before the podcast, against the Steelers and the Panthers, arguably to the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. Nothing convinces me that they're any good whatsoever, and they'll probably have to wait until next year for Deshaun to come back. I know he's coming back in week 10, but I think it'll be too little, too late then. And I see the Bengals winning this easily enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bengals will win by touchdown plus. Browns defense that's been a lot worse than I thought, and in our preview I think we spoke about their defense being quite good before the season, and unfortunately for them it hasn't been good at all. So yeah, I fancy the Bengals as well. I think they just scored too many points, and I think it probably could be quite a good day for Joe Mixon as well, relatively, against this defense. So some props for him I might be looking at on Monday night.
Hard to disagree with any of that. I think you saw, quote unquote, the real Bengals last week against the Falcons when they're flying and going. It's just hard to stop. There's so many weapons, and Burrow can be so accurate. And I would definitely take the Bengals side here over the Browns. I mean, the Browns do have talent, but Kareem Hunt seems unsettled. It sounds like they're going to trade him in the next couple of weeks or so. So how much will they even really use him on Monday? We'll see. And Brissett is exactly what Jack described. Hard to watch at times. So yeah, I'd 100% agree with this as an option. I mean, to be honest with you, I think we're 3 of 3 so far on best bets without really much effort. So no pressure, KV. I mean,
Well, I guess we'll see how we go with that one. Obviously, I am a pessimistic Bengals fan, as I say every week. The Browns are 5-1 against Joe Burrow, which is a little bit of a worry. Obviously, that's straight up. They're actually only 2-4 against the spread, which is a bit of a weird one. The overs have been hitting their 5 out of those 6 games, which is interesting. It's just the Bengals can't defend against Nick Chubb. It's a weird one. So you'd imagine they'll be doing their best to do that. And Brissett only really had a connection with David Njoku, who's unlikely to play with his injury from last week, although he has said watch this space or something similar. I don't think he'll be playing. They've had a lot of players on rest days today as well. So they're obviously banged up. The Bengals actually didn't have Jamar Chase practicing today with a hip injury. Well, hip soreness. But there's no doubt that he'll be playing in this one. And yeah, the way the Browns defense has been, it could easily be 43 points for the Bengals. I mean, it's the 43 total, and fingers crossed. Obviously, it's always pain getting up at. Well, luckily this week it's 12:20 because of the clocks going back, so it's actually a little bit easier getting up for us in the UK this week. So I will definitely be up for this one. And fingers crossed, waking up after a little nap on Tuesday with a win before work. So I went for an under last week in the Lions against the Cowboys game. I'm going for an under again, and it's involving the Lions again. I think they've been found out to a certain extent. I think the game against the Patriots, where they scored 0, has awakened teams to figure out how to slow them down. It might just be that they've been unlucky. Obviously, last week they had the Jamal Williams 1 millimeter the stop on the 1 millimeter line. They had Amon-Ra St. Brown go out the game early with concussion, which wasn't concussion. It's been a bit rough for them, but the Dolphins are a very good defense. They've been restricting teams. The Dolphins have only scored over 21 points once this season, which seems absurd with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think Hill's either the leader in yards or one of the top 2 or 3, which is crazy that they're putting up so many yards and they don't seem to be finding the end zone. So basically, I think the Dolphins win. They are 3.5-point favourites on the road, but I don't think they're going to score more than 24 points. So therefore, I like the under 51.5.
Yeah, I like it as well. I think I like -3.5 as well, to be honest. Lions just really struggling at the moment on both ends. Their defense has been really bad all year, and the offense hasn't looked great for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, I think it was. Did they score at the weekend or not? Because I think I read, or did they get beaten to 0 at the weekend by the Cowboys?
They got
6.
6, yeah.
Yeah, so they've scored
6 or 24-6.
Yeah, so they've scored 6 points in 3 weeks because they had a bye in the middle. So Jared Goff's not in a good place at the moment. So yeah, I like the under. And for efficiency, Dolphins' second worst offense after the second drive of the game. So I think that it'll be a lowish scoring win for the Dolphins, I think.
I mean, look, if we get the first drive Dolphins, all game, then, it might be 50-0. But even then, that would still hit the under, I guess. The criticisms of Tua and the offense after the first drive were fair, but that first drive was electric. So if the Dolphins play like that, then they could score every time down the field. The Lions, I do like the weapons they have with Amon-Ra. I've said that already. Ooh, there goes my headphones. Wonderful technical difficulties there. My bad, apologies. I do like the Lions' weapons, but it is a high line. I could see it being kind of a 24-21. I don't necessarily know that I'm expecting both teams to be scoring 28 or more points. So, I'll agree with you on the under there too.
Yeah, when I go through usually on a Monday morning, I'll have a look at some of the lines and stuff. I seen it's at 50.5. I thought I was seeing things. Don't know why it was so high, especially with the Lions scoring 6 points in the last 2 weeks. The Dolphins, I stayed up for the game on Sunday night, and I know they won, but it was hard to watch. I don't think there was a single point scored in the second half. I think it was 16-10 at halftime. It finished like that. Dolphins defense playing very, very well. Jalen Phillips is starting to come into his own, putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and I expect pretty much the same, even though the Lions offensive line is decent in fairness. 50.5, I don't know why it's that high. I do like the Dolphins -3.5 as well, but of course I would. But yeah, no, I've no arguments here. I think it's a good bet.
Yeah, it's not often I support the Dolphins, but I do think like the -3.5 was the thing I looked at first on here, and then I saw the total being the only one over 50 for the week, and figured that was the more sensible bet, and then I don't have to support Tua either, so it's it all worked out well in the end, hopefully. We get the final London game of the season, which is the Broncos at Jaguars. Officially at Jaguars, which is at Wembley. It's the Broncos +2.5 with a total of 39.5, which is unsurprisingly, I think it's the lowest of the week. There's a couple of low ones this week. Yeah, Commanders at Colts is 39+5 as well. So yes, it's the Russ Wilson has been doing his exercises on the plane on the way over and said that he's ready to ride on on Sunday, which I guess is great for the fans in the UK. We didn't want to see Brett Rippon come over and be the quarterback for the Broncos, but I mean, is it going to make that much difference? They have not been very good this year. The Jaguars have been hit and miss, frankly. I think they are better than their record, but they don't seem to be able to get it in. I think there was 900 yards of offense in their game last week or something similar. I heard it was a ridiculous amount on both sides of the ball, and yet they couldn't find the end zone. They obviously finished the game with throwing it 1 yard short of the end zone, and in fairness, a very good tackle by the Giants defenders. But you've got to throw it into the end zone there. I just, yeah, I don't really have a lean on this one. I guess I'd have to lean to Jaguars. Obviously, they're used to playing over here, and frankly, I think Trevor Lawrence is probably better than Russ Wilson at the moment, which is a damn an indictment on Russ. So yeah, I've not made it to any of the games this year. I hope to next year. I should be able to get tickets for the Spurs games because someone's offered me them already. So fingers crossed I can get down to those, but I won't be. I'm not good to do it missing this one.
No, yeah, I think I'm with Jags -2.5 here. I think under a field goal. I just not sure what you're going to see out of Russ. He's injured, isn't he? Regardless of how bad he's played, I know he's going to play, but he hasn't played well. He's now got an injury, which should make him less mobile theoretically than he's already been. So, yeah, I think I'll go with Jags. Better QB, definitely better head coach because Broncos have probably got the second worst head coach left in the league. So. Yeah, I like that. In terms of the total, I don't mind the over, but you need Russ to actually play well, so it's too risky. So I'll go Jags, and we'll see if those high knees on the plane helped at all for us.
God, he just does it to himself. I mean, I don't dislike Russ. I always quite liked him as a Seahawk. I quite liked him in Seattle, but just, he makes it hard to want to cheer for him. Basically, with his antics, and it looks like Jerry Jeudy hates him. I don't know that anybody in that Broncos organization can really believe what they've bought. It kind of feels like the Seahawks sold them magic beans, if that makes sense. So I don't really know how to read the Broncos. The Jaguars being favorites feels weird at any point. Just because it's in London, and I think weird things happen in London games, I'd be tempted by the over because it's a relatively small total. And, I kind of have this theory that both defenses are jet lagged and don't know what they're doing. I feel like the over hits more often in those games in London than it should, which is not in any way backed up by statistics, but here we are. So I would lean on the over and I would lean to the Jaguars side if I had to. But this is probably one of those early morning games that will be relegated not even to the second TV screen, but to my phone while the Premier League is actually on the TV screens, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I don't think the NFL could give a worse matchup than this. Like it's a standalone game. I don't think I'll be watching it. The stuff coming out about Russell Wilson now, it's okay with that stuff coming out when you're winning, but the way they're playing and stuff, it's just cringe. Like everything about him is just cringe. Part of his teammates hate him. The stuff coming out about him, even from old Seahawks players, even likes of Richard Sherman and Marshawn Lynch, he just looks to be not very well got at all. 39.5, I'd be leaning towards the under all day in this, but it's such a low total, I'll probably just stay away from it completely. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars win this by double digits.
Yeah, we'll see. I believe that Wembley games generally are lower scoring than the Spurs games, but and obviously the Broncos do have a very good defense. But yeah, there's, as the guys have said, it's a very low total, so you're going to struggle to take unders. But and obviously with it being the London game, it's a standalone game, and the clocks go back this week, as I said. It's a 1:30 kickoff, and the rest of the games on Sunday night at 5 o'clock. So just be aware of that. Make sure you don't miss out, like I just missed out, the Thursday night game. Thursday night game is now, I believe, the Ravens plus 1.5 at the Bucks with a total of 46. This total's been all over the place. It opened as the Bucks favourites and then flipped over to the Ravens being favoured, and now it's back to the Bucks being favoured by 1.5. I think the Ravens are probably. I don't know. I mean, this is a tough game to call. I think the Ravens are the better team, but I still have the worry that the Bucks click at some point. I've said last week I'm worried about the Bucks and Brady. I think he's he's obviously got stuff going on in his personal life. He's got stuff going on off the field. There doesn't seem to be a connection there. But if Mike Evans catches that ball in the first quarter, it's the first touchdown of the day, and who knows what would have happened from there. I think it might just take one little spark to get them reignited and get back to winning ways, frankly. But for this one, I would probably lean to the Ravens. And there's a worry over Mark Andrews tonight. He hasn't practiced all week, but I'm assuming he's going to go. If he doesn't, then look for not Ed Oliver, Josh Oliver, the second tight end. He should be available at a big price if you can get there quickly enough. But yeah, I think the Ravens are going to run all over them. I believe Lamar Jackson has 510 yards, which is more than any of the Bucs running backs have this year. The Ravens are also terrible at defending pass catching running backs. They're fourth worst in the league. So Lenny Fournette and I saw Adam Chernoff put out Rashad White over 16.5 receiving yards. They're probably worth a decent look tonight as well. Liam.
I was actually just about to tip on the PFF app that Lenny Fournette to be under receiving yards was like their best bet of the whole weekend, pretty much. But Rashad White over was the second best bet. So I think people seem to think Rashad White's going to get a heavy load tonight. So I've bet on him to score a touchdown and to go over his receiving yards because, like you said, Tom Brady also dumps it off a lot. So I think that fits quite well. In terms of the spread, I backed Brady first touchdown pass last week, and I got all the other QB bets right, and then Joe Burrow beat me to it, and Mike Evans dropped that pass exactly as Joe Burrow dropped back, so that lost me that bet. But I'm going to go for Tom Brady again. I keep doing it every week, it seems, so I'm going to go Bucks -1.5. I like both these teams, but I think the Ravens can lose this game and still make the playoffs. I think if the Bucks lose this game, it could be very difficult for them. So I think I'm going to go with Brady to get it done on Thursday night. And then make some trades this weekend for some better players.
Yeah, I hate going against Tom Brady. I really do. I'll say first and foremost that both these teams have been in a bit of a slump, and therefore I feel like it can be a get-right game for both of them. So I'd be leaning over just based on there is like so much explosiveness on these offenses that eventually they have to break out and break free. And I'm sure each of you is going to tell me why I'm wrong and take the under, but primetime game, standalone game, two quarterbacks who can score points in a hurry, two offenses loaded with weapons when they get open. I'll take the over here. I did see that Paddy Power, I think it is, has a special on Gus Edwards, Leonard Fournette, and Lamar Jackson all to have 50 rushing yards, which I think is like 7 or 8 to 1, I think, which I liked when I saw that this morning. If I had to pick a side, it's hard to back against Brady, and I hate the 1.5 as a spread, but I'll lean with the Ravens largely because I want them to win, which again is not necessarily a particularly logical way to think about this. But yeah, I'd be taking the over and probably staying away from the sides.
Yeah, I think it's a coin flip of a game. It's actually a good Thursday night game for once. I think the Bucs will win. I think it's one of them type of games that the Ravens, who usually start off well, might be winning at half time, and then the Bucs rally back in the second half. Surely they can't be any worse than they were last week. I backed them in play at halftime against the Panthers. I think they were 4-5, and
Same.
Jesus, such a shout! I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They were just absolutely terrible. But yeah, I'd expect the Bucs to kind of get right. Like, there's no way they can be as bad as they were last week. I want the Bucs to win as well. But if the Ravens do win, you'll see a few Antonio Brown memes that can't really be beaten. But yeah, I think I might do maybe a flurry on Ravens halftime, Bucs full time, and there's also a special on Paddy Power. Lamar 50 yards and a touchdown, 50 yards running and a touchdown is 10-3. I think he's at over 50 in every game so far this year, and he's due a touchdown. He hasn't scored one in the last 4 games, so that's one I like at 10-3.
Yeah, the 50-yard one that Callum mentioned, I think is Skybet at 6-1. I just had a quick look around because I knew I'd seen it somewhere. So yeah, 50 yards for each of those 3, which seems fairly reasonable. Don't mind that at 6-1. Tom Brady, I've just had a quick little look. He's 14-3 on Thursday nights. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of tempted to get up for this one. It's I think it's going to be an interesting game. So is it going to be worth the pain of very little sleep maybe we'll see. I'll see if I can get up for at least the first quarter and see how it goes.
I was gonna,
Yeah, that. Sorry, go.
I was going to add as well because Callum mentioned the spread. I was reading earlier that in the last 12 years, there's been more games this season finish on 1 or 2 points than ever before. So it's a case of, in terms of betting, 3 has always been a key number, but 2 and 1 are nearly as key as like 3 and 7 now. So it is a bit annoying that you're only getting 1.5 in this game.
Yeah, and especially when it has been like you probably could have got 2 on either side at any point this week or at various points this week. Let's say it's been all over the place. Yeah, I had something else. It doesn't matter. So let's move on to Sunday night. As I say, 5 o'clock kickoffs for all these now, which is great if you're not obliged to cook Sunday dinner for your wife and daughter as a payment for getting Sunday nights off. I'm going to have to try and figure out some kind of bargaining to get to see these games this week. But for me, the Bengals aren't on until Monday night, so not too bad. So I'm going to start off with the Raiders -1.5 at the Saints with a total of 49.5. This was the other one I was considering for my best bet, and then I realized I was going to be back in the Raiders, and I couldn't do it. I had to get away from it. But they've been very good recently. They seem to have figured out that Josh Jacobs is the key to their offense and giving him the ball 20 plus times a week, and he's been doing really well. They're playing a Saints team without probably 3 or 4 of their cornerbacks, so in theory, could be a good game for Devontae Adams. He's done all right. He hasn't done as well as I think many expected, as I expected, but he's done okay. So I'm probably going to be leaning to the Raiders -1.5, and probably over on the total, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning the Raiders as well. Before the season, I'd have hammered the Saints at this line, but they just disappointed me week in, week out. And Andy Dalton's now the starter, so if I just can't bet on Dalton at all ever. So I'll go Raiders. In terms of the spread, I'd be leaning under, but yeah, I don't think I'll actually bet it. So yeah, I'll be going Ravens -1.5 as well.
Is Callum gone?
Callum's frozen, I think.
I was a little surprised to see both of these teams on 2 wins, to be honest. It was it seems like they both should have done better. So yeah, it's been a bit painful. Jack, sorry, go ahead.
I really like the Raiders -1.5 here. I think the Saints' defense has probably been one of the most disappointing units of the year so far. They're not getting any pressure on Derek Carr at all, and that's exactly how you beat Derek Carr, is put a lot of pressure on him. He doesn't really know how to deal with it. It's probably my second or third favorite bet of the week. The Raiders -1.5. As you're saying, Josh Jacobs seems to be going well. I think Devontae Adams could have a huge game with all the Saints' defensive injuries. Yeah, I think it's well, I suppose it's a must-win game for both teams, but the Raiders still have a glimmer of a chance of getting in if they win. I think they've had a bye week already, whereas the Saints haven't. So yeah, I lean towards the Raiders -1.5 here.
Alan, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry, my internet just completely freaked out and died. Apologies. I'm not big on the Raiders generally in the long term. If Jameis was starting, I would take the Saints, but based on it's Andy Dalton, I just can't really bring myself to trust him against the Raiders team that does have some talented pieces. So I would lean with the Raiders as well.
Cool. We're all on the Raiders for the week. That's a worrying place to be.
Saints win confirmed.
Yeah. Next up is another NFC South game. Is the Panthers +4.5 at the Falcons with a small total of 41. The Falcons were 6-0 going into last week. They're now 6-1 against the spread. Going up, but that was all as underdogs. This is a game where they are favoured, and I know that this was about 6.5. I think earlier in the week. I know a lot of the pros and the sharps are on the Panthers covering the spread in this one. It's a firm stay away from me. I don't think the Panthers are that good. They looked great against the Bucs, in fairness, after trading away McCaffrey. Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman both looked pretty good on the ground, and PJ Walker's got a good arm on him, which he should be able to use to take advantage of the Falcons having so many injuries at cornerback and in their secondary. But frankly, it's DJ Moore and not much else for them. So yeah, it's a firm stay away from me.
Yeah, stay away from me as well. I think I read that 90% of the money is on the Falcons. Sorry, 90% of the tickets are on the Falcons, though, which surprised me that the public is that heavy on them. But yeah, I just can't back it. The Panthers are a weird one because they could trade some players this week. And are you going to risk playing your players on a Sunday if you've got deals lined up for Monday and Tuesday? Because the deadline's on Tuesday morning. So if there's any risk of a trade and they want a second or first round pick, they're not going to play them. So I think I'd probably stay away. If I had to lean, I'd be leaning the over because I think both defenses can be so bad in the back end that there'll be some big plays. But yeah, I think I'll be staying away on Sunday.
Yeah, looks like
I kind of
Callum,
like
is it?
the Panthers here. I don't. I kind of like the Panthers side here. I don't feel that I don't feel like the Falcons are good enough to blow anyone out. Though the Panthers could blow themselves out if that makes sense. So it's hard to really trust either side. But PJ Walker's in a little bit of a groove. Your friend and mine, Baker Mayfield's back on the bench. So if he does start badly, then Shake and Baker can come in and be the hero for the second time this season. So yeah, I weirdly I like the over. I liked what I saw out of Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard as running backs last week for the Panthers. DJ Moore finally showed up and actually played, I think. So yeah, I would take the over 41. I don't think either defense is particularly special. And yeah, I would probably take the Panthers plus the points just because I think it'll be relatively close in the end.
Yeah, I like the overs in this as well. That'll be my main play, especially with all the Falcons' defensive issues. A few injuries. I really like the Panthers minus 4.5, and then I seen that everyone was backing it, so I'm not going to back it now. I think the Panthers after last week, I think they kind of had a chip on their shoulder after trading McCaffrey, and everyone thought they were going to get smashed, including myself, against the Bucks. So it's hard to kind of do that 2 weeks in a row. The Falcons are 3-4. I thought they'd be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, and they've actually been very competitive. So if they win this game, they're 4-4, and their division isn't exactly lighting the world on fire either. So they're still playing for something. Whereas the Panthers, I suppose, they could trade away the likes of Brian Burns before the deadline and stuff. So I probably will go for the overs, and I might throw the Falcons in to win, but 4.5 I probably won't touch. But yeah, the overs is probably my biggest lean of this game.
So hopefully, surprisingly entertaining game in that one. Bears plus 9.5 at the Cowboys with a total of 42.5. It sounds ridiculous given my opinion on the Bears, but that's the only way I can lean on this game. I think the Cowboys' offense is still not clicking. Dak has played a game and a half now, and he hasn't looked great for any of it, frankly. Obviously, he is better than Cooper Rush being back there, but yeah, this could be an under game. The Cowboys' defense is good. Obviously, the Bears traded away Robert Quinn this week, but I don't think he's been playing or done a lot for them because he wasn't exactly happy there. So yeah, I think I'd be leaning Bears plus 9.5 and under the 42.5.
Yeah, there's another spread we'll talk about later, but I've teased that spread up, and I've also teased this spread up to 17 for the Bears so far. But in terms of the over-under, the under is obviously the shout because the Bears can't stop anyone from an offensive line point of view, and Parsons probably going to get multiple sacks. But yeah, I won't be betting on this spread or this total, I don't think. But I probably like Fields overs on rushing because they actually used him for the first time. He had more design runs in the Patriots game than he's had in the entire rest of the games of the season combined. So, yeah, I'll probably be betting his over totals before the bookies latch on and start whacking that line up a little bit.
I think the Cowboys could absolutely kill the Bears here, largely based on their defense, though I do think their offense is being a little bit underrated because Dak looks rusty still. But in general, if ever there's a letdown game spot, it's after you've beaten the Patriots in a massive upset on a Monday Night Football. So I think the Bears might be riding high and might be brought back down to earth relatively quickly. So give me the Cowboys every which way here.
Yeah, 9.5 is probably too high. I think the Cowboys will win. The unders is what I lean towards here. The Bears, in fairness, it was some win against the Patriots on Monday night, but it's one good performance by Justin Fields. I don't think anyone should be getting carried away or anything. As for the Cowboys, I'd expect their defense to completely dominate them. 42.5, I know it's low enough, but if I was to do anything, it probably would be that. I can't see the Bears scoring more than than 13 or 14 points against this Cowboys defense. And I can't really see Dak getting 30 points in himself either. The way the Cowboys are playing on offense, they'd probably look better with Cooper Rush. But yeah, if I was to do anything, it'd probably be the unders in this game. I wouldn't really back the Cowboys -9.5 with any confidence, and I'm not backing the Bears +9.5 after beating the Patriots, like Callum said. It's a letdown spot.
Yeah, could be a good one for the nerds who love Tony Pollard. It looks like Zeke's probably going to miss this one. He missed training again this week, so we might get a chance to see whether Pollard can be the main back, and he's got a decent matchup, so we will see on that one. I was just looking around for Justin Fields rushing yards, and annoyingly there isn't rushing yards out anywhere that I can find. There's receiving yards and there's passing yards, but not the rushing yards yet. So we're thinking around 50, 49.5, something like that.
Yeah, I think he was 44 on the other night. So yeah, I reckon 49.5 maybe. I bet the over on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the team that they beat on Monday night was the Patriots. They are -2.5 at the Jets with a low total again, 40.5. The Jets obviously have been one of the better teams, one of the more surprising teams this year, but they lost Breece Hall and they lost Elijah Vera Tucker on the offensive line, who was probably the key to their offensive line as well. So this could be a painful week for them. Patriots haven't exactly been pulling up trees, but Bill Belichick has won 10 in a row at least against the Jets. That was what I searched for the other day. It could well be 20 for all I know. I know he's got a very good record against them. And they have a decent pass rush. Judon had 2.5 sacks on Monday against Justin Fields and the Bears. And with offensive line issues, I think that could happen again. Zach Wilson looked terrible when he was called upon to be the man against the Packers. I think they were... What was the Packers? Against it was the Packers this week, wasn't it? He looked awful. He was running for his life and didn't seem like he could complete anything. So Corey Davis went out with a knee as well. So they are depleted, the Jets, and they were fairly shallow already. So for me, I'm leaning Patriots. Not exactly confident on it, so I won't be a bet, but that's the only way I'm looking on this one.
Yeah, I think I lean with Bill and the Patriots. We speak about him. He's like one of the only coaches we talk about actually mattering to the spread when we do these podcasts. Yeah. I think he really does for this matchup. Under a field goal, I think you have to take him. Their run game is really, really good. Matt Judon leads the NFL in sacks as well, so he's having a really, really good season. So I think he'll probably be able to get to the quarterback. And the Jets are basically a run-first team that's just lost their running back. So we'll see how James Robinson does since he's been traded there. But I just fancy the Patriots to do enough on the ground to win the game.
I really want to take the Jets here. I've been quite loud in the Patriots are not very good talk. And I was so happy on Monday night. I have not had such fun sitting alone in my apartment watching Monday Night Football in so long. The Jets are a weird proposition now that Breece Hall's done, because that was kind of their offense, and I'm not convinced that Zach Wilson is really breaking out the way they want him to just yet. However, Sauce Gardner and that defense definitely are. And I kind of think that this game could have less than 10 points in it, because I don't think either offense is good, and I think both defenses are pretty solid. And I'm not one for taking an under, but yeah, I would 100% be going under in this one, just because I think both teams... I think the Patriots will run the ball, and I think the Jets will try to run the ball with James Robinson, their new addition, and Michael Carter, which, again, just as a side note, is a trade I didn't really understand, because I feel like they've now got two versions of Michael Carter, if that makes sense. Not much of an improvement as far as I'm concerned. So I'll take the under here. If you are telling me, gun to my head, I have to pick a side, I will take the Patriots, because I don't think the Jets are a 6-2 football team.
I 100% agree with you. I like the unders here as my main bet, and Patriots -2.5 as well. I don't mind that either. Seeing Belichick get embarrassed on a Monday night, I can only see this game going one way. Last weekend, I had the Denver and Jets game. Neither team to hit 20 points, was 2-1, and to be honest, it was never in doubt. I know it was like 16-30. I think it was 16 something. It finished 16 something or whatever, but both offenses look terrible. As to the Patriots on Monday night, offense looked terrible. The whole Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi thing, not naming a starter, then naming a starter, then saying one's going to play one half, one's going to play the other. All the stuff coming out, it's bad for a camp. So I can't really see many points being scored in this game. It's a pure divisional matchup. Jets are riding high, Patriots are down low, which means one thing only: the Patriots will win. A pure slog. I can expect something like 14-13 game or 14-10 game. So I'd probably back the unders as my main bet here, and Patriots to win. Probably cover the spread, but win anyway.
Yeah, I think he's announced Mac Jones as a starter. I'm sure I saw that today.
Yeah.
We'll see what that means as the game goes along. But I mean, he should be. I know the fans wanted Zappi, but they've surely got to give Mac Jones a bit more of a chance to come back. The Steelers plus 10.5 at the 6-0 Eagles coming off their bye week. It's a 43 total. Battle of Pennsylvania here. Obviously, one team has been doing significantly better than the other. And the Eagles, after trading for Robert Quinn this week, have looked to strengthen. They're obviously seen where they are in the league. They've seen what their chance, and they looks like they're going to take it. So fingers crossed for them, because I have a lot of the Eagles from pre-season. As it comes to this game, Kenny Pickett, he's Pickett by name, Pickett by nature. It's a joke that I'm going to be able to keep using because he keeps throwing interceptions. 3 against the Dolphins last week, which cost them the game. I mean, they need to have him in there. They need to get him the experience, but he needs to obviously look after the ball a little bit more. And their defense has actually been surprisingly good in the last couple of weeks. Obviously restricted the Bucs and held the Dolphins to not many points last week. So, I mean, I wouldn't be taking the Steelers plus 10.5. I took them plus 14.5 in a game this year, and it really didn't go well. So I am away from doing anything Steelers-wise. I hope the Eagles win. I hope they win comfortably. I think the best bet for me here will be first half Eagles, because they've been killing teams in the first half, and that's the way I'd be looking here. I'm guessing it's going to be 5.5, 6-ish, well, probably 6-ish. So it's a little bit of a risky one, but yeah, this isn't a game I'll be betting on either. So yeah, I'll leave that to you, Liam.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be betting the game. If I had to do a lean, though, it'd be Steelers plus 10.5. Eagles' second half performances offensively are just so bad that I just feel like they could get a 14-point lead and the Steelers could score 2 field goals. Because even if the Steelers are down 3 touchdowns, they only want to kick field goals for some reason. So yeah, I think I'd probably lean that way. I wouldn't touch the total at all, because it could be a game where a couple of Pickett passes go for pick sixes, and you're talking about the Eagles scoring 35 points on their own. So yeah, I'd lean Steelers and stay away from the total, I think.
Yeah, I would lean. I think you would lean under if you had to. I kind of see the Eagles murdering them, especially off the bye. I think the Eagles are really, really good. The additions that they've made in the offseason have made a huge difference. And, adding Robert Quinn this week, obviously I don't think he's going to play on Sunday, but they are fully going all in to try and win right now. Don't love this game. Spread's a little bit too high for me, but it's really hard to trust that Steelers team right now. They should have lost by more than 10 to the Dolphins on Sunday night. So I can't really believe that the Steelers will be able to keep it close with a team that's much better than the Dolphins in the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Eagles they're top 3 in everybody's power rankings now. They're a very good team coming off a bye, as you said. The Steelers, I know it's 30 days yet, but Pickett just doesn't look like he has that it to him whatsoever. I know the Dolphins only bet them by 6 points, but it went down to the final drive on Monday night. But I never really had a doubt that Kenny Pickett was going to mess up or that he was going to convert. 10.5 is a lot, but I just see it as Adam said. I see the Eagles, especially in the first half, being up by maybe 20 or 24 or whatever, and the Steelers not even being able to crawl it back to make it even, anyways, respectable. So my lean here would be the Eagles minus 10.5. And as for the total, I could see the Eagles putting up 35 points, as was said before. So I probably wouldn't touch that. But yeah, Eagles minus 10.5 seems to be the play here.
Yeah, the first half line is minus 6.5 for the Eagles. Their defensive line against the Steelers' offensive line could cause issues all day. And yeah, I don't mind. It's a large first half total, but I don't mind that too much. I did have a quick look to see who the Eagles had next week to see whether there was a look ahead spot. They're playing the Texans on Thursday night, so I don't think they'll be saving too much for that one either. Obviously, a short week for them, but it's part of the easiest schedule in the NFL. So I think it's onwards and upwards for the Eagles, and possibly 17-0. Who knows? We'll see come the end of the season. But they really don't have many opposition who can beat them, frankly, coming up. So yeah, it's a ridiculously easy schedule. The Giants are a 6-win team, or maybe a 7-win team. 6-win team, aren't they? They're 6-1 coming into this one, playing the Seahawks in Seattle. They are 3-point underdogs again. They were 3-point underdogs last week against the Jags, and they came out with a win. And the 3-point underdogs go into Seattle with a total of 44.5. I don't know what to say about the Giants, frankly. I know that Steve Fezzik from RJ Bell podcast and from just general betting, he has the Giants rated still around 20, 23 in his power rankings. And I'll be honest, I'm closer to that than the top 10 that they seem to be in quite a lot of the other rankings. They get the job done. That's all I can say about them. And they're one of the better fourth quarter teams in the league. They seem to be able to, they know what they're doing there, and Saquon Barkley is the key to that. Daniel Jones and him both went over 100 yards on the ground last week, which is quite impressive. But yeah, I would have to lean to the Seahawks, even without DK Metcalf, who isn't officially ruled out yet, but will probably not be playing in this one. Kenneth Walker obviously looks incredibly good on the ground. He is the de facto Offensive Rookie of the Year favourite now, with Breece Hall going out. And obviously, as long as he stays healthy, he's probably going to win that. But yeah, this game, again, not a bet for me, but I would lean to the Seahawks. It's just, I can't go against the Giants again. They just seem to find their way.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about futures next week, and I think that Kenneth Walker one is a really, really good bet. He's playing really well. I think he'll have another good day against this Giants front. It's so annoying with them being +3 again after last week, but I probably would lean Seahawks as well. Their QB is playing better, even though Daniel Jones is playing well for him. Gino's playing really, really well, so I'll probably lean Seahawks at home. But I actually think the over's a pretty good bet because I don't think either team's defense can stop anyone. So, yeah, I quite like the over.
Yeah, I'm with you on the over. I am utterly convinced that this is the worst 6-1 team I've ever seen in the Giants. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I remember when the Steelers were 11-0 and they were terrible a couple of years ago. But this Giants team has that vibe. Yeah, I guess I'll take the Seahawks -3, but I don't love it. Giants can't be 7-1. It just can't be 7-1.
Yeah, the first I really got to see the Seahawks was last weekend against the Chargers, and they were very, very impressive. Geno Smith looks like twice as good as Russell Wilson. Pete Carroll kind of showing that it's him that was the main man, not Russell Wilson over the last couple of years. Geno Smith just looks like a completely new quarterback. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The Giants, yeah, as I said, they're probably one of the worst 6-1 teams I've ever seen. Brian Daboll probably is a shoe-in for Coach of the Year. Well, I suppose they need to win a couple more games, but he's flying, especially what they've got. Like, the total 44.5, the over does seem to play there. I think the Seahawks will win, but I had the Jags in a money line parlay last week, and I couldn't believe that they had them over 1.5 field goal as well. They had a chance to just put it over. I think they had 4-2, maybe on the 19-yard line, something like that, and for some reason went for it and missed. So that ended up costing me in 2 bets, you can nearly say. Yeah, like the Giants at 6-1, I wouldn't even call them frauds because nobody even really rates them that highly. But yeah, if I was to do anything, it probably would be the Seahawks, but I'm not going to back against the Giants here, so I'll probably just stay away from this game completely.
Yeah, well, I think we all agree on that one then. Is a bit of a stay away and over probably on the total. I do agree with you guys on that one. One that I probably will be betting finally is the 49ers -1.5 at the Rams. It's a very low total again for this kind of game, 43. I love the 49ers here. Shanahan owns McVay, and they brought in Christian McCaffrey this week. They've got players back on defense, and they looked, well, admittedly, they didn't look good against the Chiefs, but that was against the Chiefs. This Rams team, you've got one player to stop, and you stop Cooper Kupp, and you're going to win the game. And as I say, the 49ers have dominated this matchup in recent years. in the regular season anyway. And that's what I'm counting on here. So yeah, I just think that Shanahan, and with 10 days or so of Christian McCaffrey, I thought McCaffrey actually looks quite good in the limited play he got last week. He was making big gains through the air and on the ground. I was looking for a receiving line on him. He was really low. It was 16.5, I think. No, 13.5 last week, because obviously they weren't expecting him to play much. You got to expect it to be around 30, probably a little bit more this week, and I'll probably take the over on that one. They could be very exciting going forward. Admittedly, they got Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, which does not fill me with a whole lot of confidence, but he can dump the ball off to McCaffrey 15 times a game, and I think the 49ers are going to win this one. I think they'll win quite comfortably.
Yeah, normally I always pick the 49ers in this matchup because obviously McVay just can't beat Shanahan unless it's in a NFC title game, it seems. But I think the under would probably be my lean. I think it was 44.5 earlier in the week, though, which is a bit of a worry. 90% of the money is on it, in the States at least. So it's a bit of a kind of everyone thinks this game's going under. But I think I'd probably lean that way because after seeing how badly we beat the 49ers, I just think this surely is a game where the Rams can win by a field goal. But history says not. So I'll stay away from the line and just go on the total under.
I would lean to the Rams here just based on being fresh, coming off a bye, had time to game plan. I like what you said, Adam, about McCaffrey. I've just managed to secure his services in a fantasy trade. He's going to get so many PPR points based on just dump-offs from Jimmy Average. So I will, I think the 49ers are definitely a better team and a more scary proposition thanks to that trade. But I don't want to be too disrespectful to the Rams. Every bone in my body says they have to figure it out eventually. And with an extra week to game plan and so on and so forth, I just like the Rams in this spot.
I'd be backing the 49ers any other week. The only reason I'm not backing them is because the Rams had a bye last weekend. I'd expect them to... Look, there's no point in you making excuses like they have all year. No Odell, missing players with injuries and stuff. Like, it's put up or shut up at this stage for the Rams. If they lose this game, they're in serious trouble. I probably won't end up doing anything on the game, even though I think it will be a good match. Whoever loses, well, I suppose the 49ers still have a bit of leeway, but they were very, very poor last weekend against the Chiefs. Then again, the Chiefs were phenomenal. I actually like the 49ers to win the NFC Championship as an outright bet. I think it's 7-1. There's no real team in the NFC that I really, barred the Eagles, that are really that good. And we came to the playoffs and the 49ers were playing against the Eagles in a one-off game. I'd nearly fancied the 49ers. I think now is probably the time to get on them as well, especially after losing to the Chiefs and being embarrassed. I think they're like 16-1 to win the Super Bowl. And I suppose no matter who they play in the AFC, they'll be underdogs because obviously you'll have the Bills or the Chiefs or whoever will get through that side. But I'd stay away from me. But I do like doing the 49ers outright to win the NFC and the Super Bowl just for value.
I can't argue with that. And as I say, with me having quite a lot on the Eagles, I don't think I've got anything on the 49ers. So it's probably the time I want to get in before they win this game. Regular season, Shanahan is 8-4 against McVay. He is 9-3 against the spread. The only thing that worries me is that McVay is 3-1 coming off a bye week for the Rams, obviously only over 4 seasons, so it's a fairly limited sample, but that's still pretty impressive. I think the 49ers win that one. I'd imagine that'll be the Sky game as well, because the alternative is, well, there's a couple of alternates, and it's Commanders +3 at the Colts with a total of 39.5. Obviously, the big news in this one is the Colts changing over to Sam Ellinger at quarterback. You guys probably know a lot more than I do about him. I believe he has a big arm and he'll run around a lot. That's basically the opinion I've got from reading a few bits that you guys put in the group. I don't trust either of these teams at all. I would probably go with the under. But again, it's a nothing game for me. It's one that I won't be paying much attention to.
Yeah, same. In terms of the QB, it's going to be another one for rushing yard props because he can move for a QB. So I feel like I'd be betting all the Ellinger overs for stuff on the ground, like carries, and if you can find them, and rush yards, maybe rush TD as well, and then give the bookies a week or two to acclimatise and put his numbers up. In terms of the rest, I can't bet on either of these two teams with the spread or with the total. So firm stay away for me. Just going to do some player props for fun.
I agree with Liam on all of his props for sure. Everyone here in Texas is very excited, especially if they are of the UT Austin persuasion. Ellinger is a rushing threat, despite the fact that he looks just like an average white guy. He is actually fairly athletic, quite big and quite strong. So, yeah, I like those, Liam. I'll take the Colts here for sure. Can't trust the Commanders. Don't trust the Commanders. They beat the Packers in what was a fluke and probably won't get many more wins. If Taylor Heineke's going to win you a game, it's the first game he starts when no one's expecting it, and then there will be a slow decline from there on out. So I actually quite like it at -3 for the Colts here. Admittedly, it's a rookie, but this Washington team is just a lot less scary with Chase Young still out. So yeah, give me the Colts.
Yeah, this game's a firm stay away from me. Don't trust either quarterback. But I don't really know anything about Ellinger. I might back him anytime just for a laugh, but yeah, I have no real lean either for either team here. I had the Commanders +4 last weekend, and like supporting Heineke is just, it's hard to do. I just don't like Rodgers either, so it's kind of a win-win. For me, yeah, I'm going to stay away from this game. I'm just going to pretend it's not even happening.
Yeah, we were all watching the Red Zone last week to see who would throw the first interception, and Taylor Heinicke could have had about 4 or 5 before he had his first one in the end. It was he was very lucky to come out of that game without being utterly terrible. That game obviously was against the Packers. The Packers are 11.5-point underdogs, definitely not favourites, at the Bills with a total of 47.5. My lean here is obviously to the Bills covering, and it's under the 47.5. We keep saying that, the same as Tom Brady, that Aaron Rodgers is going to get things figured out, and that he'll bounce back and he'll make someone pay at some point. But he's been quite vocal this week about the lack of, well, not talent, the lack of ability. I think I'll go with that over talent from his wide receivers, and the fact that they're dropping everything. Romeo Doubs, who he seemed to like in preseason, had 4 drops last week out of his 4 targets. It's just not pretty for them. Sammy Watkins is coming back from injury. He's gone back to questionable again this week. He was poor last week. They don't seem to be using the running game, which we're all kind of desperate for at the moment, and it seems the only logical way they're going to move the ball, but they seem averse to doing that. So yeah, I just can't touch the Packers or do anything. They may well put up 10 points maximum, which is why I like the under in this one, because the Bills doing 38 points, they might hit the 47.5 themselves, frankly, the Bills. But yeah, they're coming off their bye. They are coming off their bye week, I think. And yeah, I'd imagine they're going to put up quite a lot of points. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs in prime time. It should be fairly comfortable for them. So I'd be leaning Bills -11.5, despite the fact it's a huge spread. But conversely, I'd be looking under the total because I just think the Packers are that bad.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to be the one that bangs on about Aaron Rodgers getting things back on track now. So yeah, no, this was my second best option for best bet, and that was Packers +11.5. I can't take. I don't know if Rodgers has ever been this much of an underdog. I imagine not, but I haven't checked. But yeah, I just can't take one of the best quarterbacks in the league. With these points, I just not take it. I just think that it's too many points. The Bills are a better team. On paper, the Packers have got a better defense, but they have been awful this season. So you need the defense to improve. So for me, I'll probably be staying away from the total completely. Taking the Packers, I just feel like this is a game where Aaron Rodgers will win and beat Josh Allen or something, and just to annoy everyone. And then next week he'll lose to whoever he's playing next week. But yeah, I'll go Packers +11.5. And I actually quite like, I think it's Aaron Jones's under for receiving yards. It's set to 29.5, which is higher than last week, even though they didn't use the running backs very much last week. So yeah, I quite like that. So that'd be another little prop for this game for me.
I agree with both of you in that I think the Bills definitely win this game. They're the better team, but I also struggle to imagine Aaron Rodgers ever being an 11.5-point underdog. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, this will be a spread that I do not bet. And there's probably not enough value on Bills' money line to take them outright. So, God, with it being Sunday night, I'd probably just take the over because I want to watch something fun on Sunday night, even though the under will almost definitely hit. But it's a strange game. The Packers They are better than what they've shown. I remain convinced, and they have to get better, and they have to figure it out. It just doesn't make sense if they don't. But I'm not convinced that this is the week they do it. I do think you'll see the Packers making some moves in the trade market in the next couple of weeks. I still don't understand why they haven't just signed Odell Beckham Jr., even if he's not 100% healthy yet. So I think you will see the Packers make some moves. I don't think it's going to help them this week. I think the Bills do win. If I had to pick a side, I would probably take the plus 11.5 just out of respect for who Aaron Rodgers, I guess, once was. Whether he still is that guy, I'm not entirely sure. But it's not a game that I'm particularly enthused by the lines. Although it should be quite fun to watch, whatever happens.
Screw Aaron Rodgers. Sorry. Sorry, Jack, carry on.
I think I read during the week that the highest handicap Rodgers was 8.5. I don't know when it was, but I think it was a couple of years ago. So 11.5 obviously is the highest by a full 3 points. When I seen it first, I thought Packers minus 11.5 has to be the play here, but the Bills do tend to hammer teams when they beat them and coming off a bye week as well. So I'd nearly be the same as you, Callum. I'd only back the Packers minus or plus 11.5 out of respect for Rodgers and the fact that it's a standalone game, but I really won't be doing it with any confidence whatsoever because the Bills can just smash teams to smithereens, especially the way the Packers defense has been playing. I'd probably just be staying away from the game, to be honest, completely. But if I had to back something, it probably would be the Packers plus 11.5.
Yeah, sorry, I was distracted then. I was looking to see what the biggest spread it was. And as Jack said, by the look of it, plus 8.5, that was against the Vikings in 2017, and they lost 16-0. So yeah, not that means a whole lot. Yeah, but they, Rodgers has never been double digits. Sorry, go on.
So what a game for it to be that score with those two teams. That must be a lot of injuries.
What was happening? Yeah, I mean that's
or
crazy.
Snow, is it? Maybe snow.
It was December 23rd, so quite possibly, yeah, it could well have been a snow game. But yeah, if that was the one, that's what I just found on Oddshark's database. They have obviously been bigger underdogs than that, but that was with Brett Hundley and Tom Flynn was the other one I found, which was back in 2010, I believe. I just found against the Steelers. So yes, Aaron Rodgers has not been that. We've talked about the Monday night game already, Bengals against the Browns. So that's it for the week. Any props from you boys?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple already, but another one was Kenny Pickett over 1.5 interceptions. That's basically 2-1 nearly in places. So yep. I feel like that's a pretty good bet from what we've seen so far from him. So yeah, that's probably one of the other ones that I'll be backing.
Yeah, weirdly enough, that was one sorry, Callum, that was I literally just looked at about 5 minutes ago was Kenny Pickett. It was 19-10 on Sky on Bet365 over 1.5. So yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
I like the Rashad White one you mentioned earlier for receiving yards tonight. I think that's a good one to look at. And yeah, I'm fully on board with everything Sam Ehlinger. I know we already touched on it, but Sam Ehlinger rushing overs, rushing touchdowns. I think that they will have to do something different this weekend. It hasn't been working for the Colts, and I could definitely see them using his legs in a way that they just haven't been able to do with Matt Ryan. So yeah, I'm liking the look of that.
As I said earlier on, I think Lamar 50 yards rushing and a touchdown 10-3 is not a bad shout. And Derrick Henry's rushing yards is, I think it's 96.5. I think he's been over 100 in his last 4 games. You'd imagine they should beat the Texans, and the game script will suit them. They'll probably run the ball in the second half. I think Tannehill's playing. I think he's fully fit, but I don't know how fully fit he is, if that makes sense. So yeah, 96.5 I thought was very, very backable. It'll probably end up going up, I'd say, before the game starts. So if you're probably going to back it, I'll probably back it now, because I don't think anyone's going to be backing him unders. But yeah, they're probably my two biggest fancies.
Yeah, I believe he does pretty well against the Texans as well. I know he does well against most of the AFC South. So yeah, over 100 yards seems fairly likely for him. One I found was Travis Etienne over 18.5 receiving yards. This line doesn't seem to go up. Seems to be the same every week. So I'll be backing that one again. I do like his longest reception and longest rush every week as well. They're generally pretty good bets. And another one I did look at was PJ Walker over 181.5 passing yards. I thought he actually did it last week. He had 177 against the Bucs last week, but with the Falcons' defensive issues, I do think there's a chance they'll throw the ball a little more and let him open it up. And yeah, if I mean Joe Burrow put up nearly 500 on them, so PJ Walker getting a third of that, I think that's still fairly reasonable. And yeah, they're the only two I've looked at so far. So yeah, obviously it is early in the week. There were no rushing lines out for the Bears, which we mentioned, Justin Fields rushing line, and there's no rushing lines out for the Colts game either. So keep an eye on them as we go. And with that, we're ticking over an hour now. So thank you, boys. Fingers crossed for another 4-0 week, and let's see how we go. Who day for Monday night?